we are going to focus in on how you or we can evaluate how authors develop characters. So what we're looking for today is how good authors develop characters. So what I want you to start with, come on in, is to think about or have in your mind either a movie character or a book character that is super memorable to you. That you are just like, I will never forget this character. This is one of my favorite characters of all time. They are so memorable to me. So interesting to me. Have one in your brain. What's a memorable character to you? What a favorite character? Maybe I should have said it that way instead. A favorite character that you have from a book or a movie. Caleb.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Love Harry Potter. Storm.
Tony Stark.
Say it again.
Tony Stark.
Oh, I'm not familiar with him. What's he from?
Iron Man.
Oh. Hello. Iron Man. Zach.
I would probably say Batman.
Batman. Jacob.
Percy Jackson.
Percy Jackson. That's a good one. One more, Savannah.
Captain America.
Captain America. Memorable characters. Memorable. You know, there's a reason why characters are memorable to you. There's a reason. There's something about them that makes them a favorite character to people. Okay? So I was thinking of a couple of memorable characters too. This is one that I know I've said you guys already. The Grinch. Memorable character. I'm like, you know, I know some things about the Grinch. When I think about the Grinch, I think like, oh, he was angry and kind of like full of hatred, and he was different, which is kind of why he was green. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, why is he so memorable to me? Almost everybody, if you say the Grinch, they know who you're talking about. But I'm thinking, well, what is it about that, what the author did for that book, or the people that wrote the movie, what did they do to make him so memorable? That's one that I'm thinking about. Here's another one. Love, 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 love. Who doesn't love Charlotte's Web? And actually, I was thinking about Charlotte for this one as a memorable character because, you know, and I just finished reading this book to Kinsley and Killian a couple months ago. They just loved it. But, you know, Charlotte is just so motherly and, like, loving. And, you know, she kind of has to have some tough love sometimes. And she has to do some selfless things. But she's memorable. So I'm like, what is it? What is it about these characters, or your favorite characters that you just said, that makes them memorable? So that kind of takes us to our focus for today. So you guys have been working on your narratives, right? Your perseverance narratives. And one thing that I'm noticing is that some of your characters, I think we could maybe strengthen up a little bit, make a little bit stronger, or develop them a little bit more. So that kind of leads us to what our focus is. So we're going to investigate how do good authors develop their characters, okay? So I pulled out an example from this story, which we read, or which was kind of from the beginning of the year, Aaron's Gift, right? So, you know, that's the one just to kind of refresh your brain with where Aaron has the pigeon, and he kind of is starting to get mixed up with that group of not so great guys, and he's kind of making some connections with his grandmother's life and some things that she has went through in the past. And I pulled out this particular part because I think this is a good example of one way that the author develops the character Aaron for me, okay? So I just want you to follow with me for a minute up here. And I want you to be thinking about, well, just from this part, what can I learn about Aaron, okay? And how did the author show that to me instead of tell that to me, okay? Okay, so follow with me up here, please. One day, a thundering of horses was heard coming toward the village from the direction of Kishinev. The Cossacks, someone had shouted. The Tsar's horsemen. Quickly, everyone in Aaron's grandmother's family had climbed down to the cellar through a little trap door hidden under a mat in the big central room of their shack. But his grandmother's pet goat, whom she loved as much as Aaron loved Pidge and more, had to be left above. Because if it had made a sound in the cellar, they would never have lived to see the next morning. They all hid under the wood in the woodbin and waited, hardly breathing. Suddenly from above, they heard shouts and calls and screams at a distance. And then the noise was in their house, boots pounding on the floor, and everything breaking and crashing overhead. The smell of smoke and the shouts of a dozen men. The terror went on for an hour, and then the sound of horses' hooves faded into the distance. They waited another hour to make sure, and then the father went up out of the cellar, and the rest of the family followed. The door to the house had been torn from its hinges, and every piece of furniture was broken. Every window, every dish, every stitch of clothing was totally destroyed, and one wall had been completely bashed in. And on the floor was the goat, lying quietly, which we know was killed. Aaron's grandmother was just a little girl of 8 at the time, or who was just a little girl of 8 at the time, had wept over the goat all day and all night and could not be consoled. So first off, you might be thinking, whoa, Miss McCart, why'd you pull this part out? Because it's not really even talking about Aaron. However, if you know this story like I do, if you're thinking back to what you remember about it, you know, I'm thinking about those things that we know about Aaron. He's kind, he's kind of, you know, loving, he's kind of more on the sensitive side, which makes him so different from the boys in the story. And this is a part where the author is kind of going back in time and connecting to the grandmother's story. Because it's kind of like they're giving us a clue as to like, this is exactly how Aaron is feeling about Pigeon, okay? So when I'm thinking about, well, what did the author tell me? What was an important part? So I pulled out my evidence. I just took it right off of what I just read to you. This is that part, his grandmother's pet goat, whom she loved as much as Aaron loved Pidge, and more had to be left behind. I'm thinking about how the author kind of did like a flashback, kind of like went back to another time to help me as the reader connect to them, to connect to the grandmother's story, because that tells me something about Aaron. Okay, so that's one way that this author helped me understand Aaron or develop Aaron a little bit better. Okay, so your goal, your purpose for today, I'm going to send you out with a partner and with some texts that you are familiar with. So the good news is that we've already read them, so we can just zoom our brains in on just focusing on the character. So you're going to be looking for some stuff about, or excuse me, in some pages from Heartbeat, so about Annie and Max and Grandpa, and some pages from We Were Heroes, so some stuff about Scott. You can also look at Aaron's Gift. I put the page numbers up there, and then that wood song that we looked at also for Gary, okay? Okay, but here's your focus, guys. I want you to start by thinking, okay, what is the author telling me about the character? But we're not going to stop there. How did the author show me that? Okay? Because the author didn't just say, Aaron is kind, Aaron is loving. The author of The Grinch didn't just say, the Grinch is green and mean. Okay? They did some different things to really be powerful and show me those traits about that character. So that's really what you're looking for. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to find a partner, to get a textbook, wait, don't move, to come up and get your 2 other packets and 2 sticky notes. I'd like you to be responsible for at least 2 pieces of evidence, and find a spot where you and your partner can work. Questions?